Hey Trey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, when we connected, I mean, you sent me an email. It was tons of information, but really it's because your passion is really strong to do what you can in this regard. I want to start with your background though. I mean, what got you into tech and doing the work that you do, Steve?
Sure, yeah. I've been working in tech about better part of 25 years, mostly here in Seattle, for the usual suspects, Starbucks, the Gates Foundation, Microsoft. I was out at Microsoft over a decade, out at Costco now. But yeah, I've mostly been moving towards this sort of digital autonomy space. I've been involved in Bitcoin and the blockchain for over a decade, and there's a real movement in that space in terms of the level of autonomy and creativity that you can have individually. And I've also been moving towards this effort in terms of social justice, and so I wanted to converge the two. And so, most recently, yeah, I've looked towards creating what I've coined as social change platforms, which really is looking towards, the communities that are suffering the most from the failures of the current socio-economic systems, providing them with the opportunity to not only build new systems, but design and own them, and basically turn democracy into a product that they own and can earn generational wealth from. And that's just on the public sector side. There's a whole new creativity element on the private sector side in terms of turning Black creativity into a product and owning that as well, and really having that be your foundation for generational wealth. And so it's a really exciting space. It's called Web3, and I can give you a 1 minute history on the web if you want to understand that. But it's coming, and it's going to transform society in a lot of ways. And so I'm just looking to do it in a way that is most impactful.
Yeah, so my understanding of Web 3 is like what we're currently in is still considered Web 2, and that's a lot of that kind of social media stuff. We saw it with like MySpace and Facebook and Instagram. All of that is kind of like the Web 2 space. Web 3 is then the next version of this, where it's like we're kind of more in it. I mean, we heard about like the metaverse and this, they're them trying to launch it. I guess that didn't happen, but as you said, it's still coming. Give us that, brief understanding of Web 3 so that we know what we're talking about here.
Sure. Yeah. In terms of the history, right? Web 1 is really from the 90s, which was just, you can say, read only, right? You're just reading information off the web, right? Web 2, which is what we're in now, and there are a lot of, new age variations, like you're mentioning, Chat GPT and all these other elements are in Web 2, which is where we're at now. Read, write, and, an app world that we're living in, right? But the problem with that is that we still don't have any digital identity, right? We have no way to control our digital self in that space. We're still using what are called centralized identifiers. We all use them: usernames, passwords, social security number, which is a terrible idea. These are all things that can get hacked. It costs companies a ton of money to, protect them. But in moving into Web3, that is where we're moving towards having digital autonomy, being able to control oneself online in a much stronger way, and using what are called decentralized identifiers. So you won't have the usernames and passwords anymore. That's from a practical perspective, but from an escape perspective and from a creativity perspective, it means everything, because it means decentralizing processes, decentralizing revenue streams, decentralizing who has control over these systems and who can build those systems. So it really is the next wave in terms of a real big revolution that's coming.
Well, tell us how social change platforms moves in this space of Web 3.
Yeah, so it's a startup right now. I have only a few folks with me, and I'm looking to get a lot more. And you mentioned Black Lives Lead, so that's just initially getting going. That will be the nonprofit side of this. So that's, of course, reaching out to the community. That's where you get involved and you tell me, you're the customer, what do you want to build, right? And of course, you will be a part of that process as well. You'll help design, build, and own those systems. And so what it will be is essentially reaching out to the community that way, and then you tell us what you want to build. And so there's tons of examples on the website of designed and accountable policing platform. Talking to the former Seattle police chief right now, Carmen Best, about that. I've built a number of other designs, if you will. And of course, that's not me telling you you should do it this way. It's just showing you the potential of like, look what we can build together. This is just an idea, right? To entice you, to come in and to be a part of it. And so the process can be, literally you can have, for example, your tax dollars become an investment, right? So you become part of that project. Let's say we get $5 million from the city of Seattle to build the accountable policing platform. Great. You can be a part of it. You don't even have to invest a dime, right? You just have to join the project and, attend the meetings and tell us, what do you want to have in this system, right? And through that process, we can get you to become a shareholder. And your, investment in, if we do it via tax dollars, would actually become an investment in that system, right? So, once it's built, it becomes a product, right? Which, the for-profit company, Social Change Platform, sells to Denver, LA, San Antonio, Boston, right? And each time, you earn revenue from that, right? So it's a whole new concept in terms of representative democracy, right? And really being a part of building the new and next generation systems that are failing you, right? And really transforming the conversation around all of those kinds of topics. And that's, of course, just one.
Well, I mean, this is heavy stuff, honestly, Steve. I mean, I'm sure we could spend many hours, honestly, talking about it. And you gave us a great example there in terms of police accountability systems. Let's think about something else. Can you give me another example that may exist for folks to kind of bring it home for them?
Sure. I would say a good example is on the private sector side, where we're moving in the Web3 space. And once people are starting to have these technologies at their disposal, like decentralized identities, you generate on the average 80 to 90,000 data points every month, right? Where's it going? Who owns it? Do you have control over it? Is it being used against your knowledge without your consent? Yes. Is it being sold to the highest bidder without your knowledge or consent? Yes. So that's an element to it. And another key part of this actually is I've also acted as what's called the data governance officer, and I've worked with companies to make sure that they are compliant with what's coming out now, which is data privacy laws, right? They have them in California, Nevada has one, Europe has it, and Canada and other places. So basically it's about incorporating those data privacy laws and rights into your identity. So it's guaranteed, right? So those things that are happening, to your data cannot happen. And you can even move towards self-monetization. That's where we're going, is we're going to, as I say, decentralize the revenue stream. You will be monetizing your data at some point.
Yeah, so right now what's happening is we opt into a lot of things without really reading because the terms and conditions have gotten to be quite extensive these days, but they're also inclusive of so many things that we don't realize is there. And then I'm just trying to like sign up to like buy something and it's like, oh, you got to accept our terms and conditions. Of course, yes, because I'm just want to hit buy, right? Yeah. But that also means then that my data is going out. Now all of a sudden I'm getting emails for things that I didn't even know I signed up for because of their partnerships or data sharing or whatever else. And so now you're saying that with this platform, I'd have the ability to actually get revenue based off of the data that's being shared without my knowledge.
Exactly. And that is a threshold that will be reached, much further down the road. I kind of consider that phase 4, phase 5, that's because you have to have hundreds of millions of people, in that space, and especially it has to be in the public sphere, but eventually that's where we're going. And so, but in the beginning, it's really just about understanding the technology and understanding what Web3 can do for you and really building these smaller ecospheres or these smaller environments where you can have that control, especially in areas of social justice, right? And being able to build that enclosed environment that protects you, right? And where you build those rules together, right? And oh, by the way, it can become a product, that you own and, as I say, can earn generational wealth from. So.
Well, what do you say to someone like me who's I'm slow to it all, right? I should have got on Instagram in the beginning. Maybe I would have a bunch more followers. I should have done this. I'm like one of those people that's like, the technology is getting crazy, right? Yeah. What do you say to those who are really apprehensive to this kind of understanding of my identity now being so digitized that I'm having to buy assets in the metaverse or in Web3 spaces? I'm having to manage those assets. I'm having having to basically kind of live on in the real world and then also live digitally. What do you say to that?
Right. Uh, we are going to build a really large education and knowledge campaign around this so that people understand it from the ground up. And that's what we have to do and show them. And the most important thing that I tell people is, especially as it relates to getting involved and, being a part of these socioeconomic systems that we want to build. I don't care if you're a 5-year-old kid or a 95-year-old great grandma. It doesn't matter. Every single one of you has a tremendous amount to contribute to this effort simply by being who you are. And before you ask the question, I'll answer it now. The answer is no. You do not have to learn a thing about the technology or the processes or what the blockchain is or what decentralized identities are and smart contracts and all that. If you have to learn that, well, then I failed you. That's on me. But that's part of my job, is to build an infrastructure that is so world class and so global that you literally have no excuse but to participate, right? Like, you could literally fall out of bed and be a part of this. And, we have big plans in terms of, I want this in all the HBCUs, all the inner city high schools, so just cranking out CEOs left and right? Because we're moving into this low code, no code space where you can literally spin up apps in 5 minutes, so it's all about being able to take advantage of that creativity that you have now and own it, turn it into your intellectual property. Right.
Wow. Steve, this is so deep. I'm looking forward to having more discussions with you on this as it progresses, because I think that this is such a new age concept. Even for me, I'm like, yeah, it's going to take me a minute to let it sink in, because I think that there's a lot of applications to what you're describing. But of course, as folks want to get connected, get plugged in, learn more, maybe be one of those folks who is on board in the beginning, look right there, let them know how they connect with you. How do they connect with the platform?
Sure. Yeah. Go to socialchangeplatforms.com. You can download all the materials. I mean, my stuff is your stuff. That's the whole point. It's designed for you and your involvement. So go check it out. All my contact info is at the bottom of every page, so reach out and let me know if you want to be a part of it, and tell me what kind of systems you want to build. We're building the teams out now too. So reach out, socialchangeplatforms.com.
Wow. Steve, thank you so much for bringing your brilliance to something that is quite revolutionary. It's almost, as you're talking, I'm like, is this the next thing that people need to be getting on board with? Because it's like the next, Facebook or something. It's like, that's where my mind is going. It's really a huge effort that you're putting out there. So thank you for this. And I can't wait to talk to you more about this.
Thank you. Yeah, can't wait.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Wow. Y'all